Now, let's assume somebody has a very heart-centered relationship with somebody.
Mhm.
Does that in any way enhance their ability to create in their lives
Sure.
if they have that type of connection with somebody and they co-create together?
Of course. I mean, the primary purpose that all relationships are for, again, according to what Bashar shares with us, is for everyone in the relationship to support the other people in the relationship in such a manner as to allow them the best opportunity to become more of who they truly are. So that would be a very balanced, heart center, head, higher mind kind of position where you are allowing and supporting the other person to really shine, to be who they are, to discover more of who they are, to be themselves, rather than imposing any kind of an expectation or an insistence or an assumption about what the relationship is supposed to be. You are allowing the relationship to be what it is. And that is a more heart-centered place, but it's also a more balanced place. It doesn't leave the mind out. It doesn't leave the higher mind out. It's a very much more balanced kind of position.
Does Bashar's civilization, do they have male female types of partnerships, or like we have
They
here, or is it
do.
different there?
They do. But again, they allow relationships to be what they are. They don't impose any particular assumption or expectation on what they need to be. They take them as they come, and they learn from them what they need to learn from them as long as they last. And they assume nothing about why they're supposed to be there. They just experience them to the fullest that they can, supporting everyone in the relationship to the best that they can, knowing that that's the only way to allow the relationship to really fulfill the reason it showed up in their lives. Let it be what it is instead of imposing any assumptions about what it's supposed to be. So in a sense, he has kind of said that, not that they have the same ritual that we do by any stretch, but he has sort of said, if you really want to think of their civilization as being in one family, if they want to think of them as being in one marriage, that might be more precise. No one is left out. They really are in one relationship with each other, and whatever forms the individual components take are what they take.
And
And
do
they
they
don't.
have some sort of physical interaction that's required in order to create children, or is it some other?
It used to be physical in the same way that we do it, but now at this point it's an energy act. In other words, what he's described is the different beings will create an energy bubble literally in between them in the air. And in that energy bubble, a new body will form for the child. And then it will be materialized. And somewhere around the age of 3, the child is aware enough of itself and its purpose in life to start sort of roaming beyond the family unit. Because again, because they're all telepathically connected anyway, it's not like a child is ever really out of sight, out of mind. And all of the adults are the parents of all the children, and all the children belong to all of the adults. Again, it's truly one family, one marriage. So nobody's ever out of touch. Nobody is ever not learning from whoever they're interacting with. It's a very, very synchronous kind of reality.
So it's one family, one marriage. How do they decide which two individuals are going to merge their energy to create a particular child?
But that's what I'm saying. They don't have to decide. It operates on synchronism. The people that need to be there at a certain time for a certain thing to happen to fulfill what someone is looking for are there at the right time. Not a second later, not a second before. They just recognize the synchronicity to such a point where it's just like when someone comes into your life and you go, wow, this person just had to be in my life at this point. They fulfill so much of what I've been looking for that they arrived at the perfect time. It's that times 10 on their world. They just recognize the timing and they don't have to plan it. It just happens. They operate on pure synchronism.
I'm finding a lot of times these days I hear from people all over the world who, in particular women, who are experiencing a lot of awakening sooner than their male partners who they're with. Is there a reason why women are awakening faster?
Well, I think women in general are taught to be more in touch with certain energies that a lot of males in certain societies are told are signs of weakness. So I think that women in general, by being allowed to be more open, are able to get in touch with things that allow them to evolve more quickly. Now, of course, I'm not saying that this is true in every single society. I'm talking in general, but because obviously there are males that are capable of also doing that. But overall, I think it has more to do with the way that people are brought up, what they're taught to believe about themselves and what they're capable of, and what they're allowed to believe about themselves, that causes one gender more than another to appear to be able to access more intuition and more of those kinds of energies that we're talking about. But I think that's changing, maybe slowly, but I think that's changing. I mean, you remind me of, I think it was George Carlin who made the joke that, men are stupid and women are crazy, but women are crazy because men are stupid. So it's just kind of a way of sort of summing that up in a nutshell, in sort of a semi-negative way, but it's funny. And some of it rings true because we're not really taught to be our smartest selves. And that can drive us crazy.
Now, a lot of the people I hear from who are in these relationships, which were going just fine until one individual had an awakening experience and the other one didn't. And many of them become very disharmonious at that point, and a lot of them do break up as a result of that. But some individuals do stay with their partners, but feel very inhibited in that environment.
And I don't think that's healthy. I think that the most loving thing you can do is be yourself. I'm not saying you can't work on it to see if there is a potential for people to stay together and change in the way that they need to change to grow together. But I think if you're forcing yourself to be in a relationship that really is not compatible with your vibration, not compatible with who you really need to be, the most loving thing you can actually do is not necessarily continue the relationship in the same way, because it gives the other person an opportunity to discover who they actually are in a relationship with, and it gives them a choice if they want to stay in that relationship to find themselves as well. They don't have to choose to do so. But it's the most loving thing to do to show them the consequence of choosing to change or not to change, because it also gives them the opportunity then to go and find someone who is on the same level, if that's what they really prefer, instead of forcing them to change into someone they don't want to be. So while I think that the person that might be evolving can certainly share the perspective and give the person an opportunity to change and become more of themselves, not even necessarily to change to stay with that person, but just to say, hey, I have found what I need for me that makes me more of who I am, and I'm willing to give you a perspective that might allow you, whether you stay with me or not, to be more of who you are. Well, that's unconditional love. It's not about possession. It's not about insistence. It's not about assumption that the relationship has to look a certain way in order to be a loving relationship. So it's really about getting a handle on being a well-balanced person and knowing that some people simply are not ready to choose to be more of who they are, and letting them go and be who they really need to be at that moment according to their belief system. So it's about really choosing an authentic and healthy way of expressing the relationship, not forcing yourself to be in what you think the relationship should be. Because in a sense, if you're being someone that is true to yourself and the other person is not growing in the same way, well, they're not in a relationship with you anyway, and you're not in a relationship with them. So all you're doing is being in no relationship, but forcing yourselves to appear as if you are. That's not healthy.
And do the individuals in that situation have less of an ability to affect their creative ability to create what they want in their lives?
I believe so, because they're forcing themselves to adopt a vibration that isn't true for them. They're trying to be someone they're not, just to appease another person who is not vibrationally compatible with the reality that they prefer. So again, it's physics. You cannot experience what you're not the vibration of. If you force yourself to stay on a vibratory level that you know is not true for you, is not preferable for you, you cannot experience the things that are preferable. You're simply not in that reality.